Welcome to the podcast. By the podcast, we mean Porch Talks. We changed the location. We are on a porch and we're talking, so that's why we called it Porch Talks. The Instagram called it Summer Studies, and we're still studying in the summer, but we're studying in the summer on a porch talking. So now it's called Porch Talks.
Keep going.
I
like it.
And because originally, my brain cells, they're gone. This is the second time we filmed this video. Initially and originally, we were going to call this Porch Talks, but then our graphic designer said Summer Studies. Or did you say Summer Studies?
We told her to do Summer Studies.
Yeah.
So, but this is episode 1 of Porch Talks, brought to you by Holy Yappers, non-sponsored video, but we're going to put a capybara up. Anyways, sorry about your editing. Anyways, first week, we're going to talk about Daniel. We're talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It's a very famous story. If y'all don't know about it, great. Continue to listen. If not, well, too late. You're already here. Might as well listen to what we got to say. So, first week, how you feeling?
Good. I feel like you kind of said the same thing twice, though. You're like, if you don't know, and if you don't know.
I said, if you know, good. You continue to listen to what we got to say. If you don't know, well,
I didn't hear that part. That might have been my bad. How am I feeling?
Yeah.
Feeling good. Feeling motivated. Actually, I have a twitch in my eye. My eye, if you can't tell, have you been seeing it?
I have not.
My left eye, like, it almost feels like there's like a parasite in my eyelid. Maybe I'll go get that checked out.
Yeah, you might.
I mean, I'm not blind yet, so can't be that bad.
That'd be funny if you got blind on the podcast. You started reading, you're like, so I'm blind. Anyways, we're going to start out in Daniel 3. If you guys don't have a Bible near you, you can follow along.
Grab one.
Or, okay.
Amazon.
Yes.
Library.
Anyways.
Church gives them out for free.
Do they?
We got ours for free.
I only got mine because I graduated.
Oh, I got mine just because. And then I got my second one just because.
Lucky.
I got mine, and then I don't remember how. I said, hey, I don't have a Bible. Then shout out Angel. Angel gave me a Bible. And then the second time I said, hey, I want to give this person my Bible. Can I just get another Bible? So, yeah, I got 2 Bibles.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to start in chapter 3. King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide. First off, that is very tall. 90 feet tall.
Can you get the background? Who's King Nebuchadnezzar? What's going on? Who's Daniel?
Hold on, brother. 90 feet tall. That's like taller than me.
I hope so.
Anyways, King Nebuchadnezzar is this king of Babylon, and they took over this land that these few Jews were living in, and it talks about it, I think, in Ezekiel. Yeah, it talks about it in Ezekiel how a kingdom is going to overtake this land, and now it's this prophecy came true with Babylon overtaking this land. And Daniel, who's the writer of this book, he is one of the most famous prophets, and he's writing the story. I don't know exactly where he is in the story. Some people say he's on a mission in a different part of town or just taking a nap. I hope he was taking a nap. Anyways.
Oh, man.
What?
I got my Bible wet, and then because I use the gel and sometimes the highlighter, the gel just gelled everywhere, man. It's not ideal.
Anyways, King Nebuchadnezzar is not a very good king. He's very selfish. He thinks it's all about him, and he wants everyone to worship him. So he just decided to make this gold statue of himself. And he set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then he sent messages to the high officials, officers, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials to come to the dedication of the statue he had set up. When you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp...
Skipping to verse 5.
I told you we were going to be jumping around.
Okay, but again, you skipped a whole verse.
That's why they're going to follow along.
They can't follow if they don't know where they're going.
That's why you got
We're at verse 5.
When you hear the sounds of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, or other musical instruments, bow to the ground and worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. First off, that's kind of scary. You gotta bow down to the statue, and if you don't, you're cooked.
No, like literally.
Yeah, you're literally cooked. You're gonna get toasted, roasted, and burnt to a marshmallow crisp. So what do we see here? We open up to this story. This guy just was like, "All right, you're gonna worship all of me and only me." So how do you do that? You make a statue of yourself. I'm not gonna lie.
That's
Gold
so
statue?
conceited.
What do you mean?
I could never love myself that much, or like I have to like not only let everybody see me, but like that's just a waste of money.
I mean, he had the money though.
It don't matter. Go buy a massive yacht, or like go name a
They didn't
town
know what
after
a yacht
yourself.
was. Dude, he
They
had
had
the whole
boats.
town of the whole kingdom of Babylon to him.
Okay,
He doesn't need to go name a town to himself.
I would. Instead of wasting all this gold, you know how much jewelry you can make with that? Shout out Johnny Dang, but like whatever he was in the, I'm sure they didn't have grills, but they had like necklaces and bracelets and chariots or whatever.
Piercings everywhere.
Yeah, just oh, that's funny.
Anyways, so we open up and he decides to just make this gold statue. And one thing that we can take away from our lives, it's the culture will throw a lot of statues at you, and you got opportunities to either bow down or not. So
what's a statue? A statue? It could be a little statue. I don't know. I mean, we live in America, so I don't see that stuff happening. But statue, literal, physical, emotional idea. What do I mean by that? We are in a celebration season. We're not in the celebration season, but we are filming this video in the celebration month. And what you have is start talking because I'm being too serious.
Yeah. So this month is to celebrate a certain group of people, and so the culture is gonna be throwing a lot of statues at you.
Yeah.
You can go walk into some stores and it's just gonna be right in your face.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear a lot of sayings of "Go love who you want," "Go follow your heart."
Your heart
love
is
is
wicked.
love. What's another saying they say? "I am who I am."
You know, it's crazy. I forgot about that because when I hear I am who you say I am. I'm not who I am. My heart is wicked, evil, and deceitful. Matter of fact, I am a sinner. I am who he says I is, though.
Exactly.
Not me. But no, seriously. The world, the culture is gonna throw a lot of stuff at you. We're living in it right now. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you're gonna see it already. But you have a choice. You can either crumble or you can stand firm. Consecrated on Christ or crumbled by compromise.
Cookies. Oh, I was saying a crumble cookie.
Those are so nasty.
Those are terrible. So, going on to verse 12. We're skipping a few verses.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you for thank you. You know, hey, y'all thank me. Without me, y'all be lost. Y'all be lost.
Nah, because they'd be able to follow along on the screen.
You know what? Just because that, I'm gonna make it very hard for them.
That's sad. That's not on me. That's on them. You're making it hard for your viewers.
No.
Yeah.
It's your fault. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that.
But verse 12. But there are some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. They pay no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue you have set up. Now, I know you want to say something about their names, so I'll let you take
You want me to do that now?
Control.
Okay. All right. Here's another key point before we dive too deep into the scripture. You know how I said you got to stand on your business? It's not even about you. Know what the world says about you. Know what the world is going to push on you. And know what God has called you to be. I want to give some insight on that. Everybody in this story, we're reading out of Daniel. And you're like, who is Daniel? We haven't even got to that point yet, right? These people, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, just like Daniel, they were all Hebrews. They had Hebrew names. Daniel's name is Daniel. Duh. But the name given to him. Oh yeah, let me get that. You can be. Let's backtrack. I'm going too many places. These were people that were living under Nebuchadnezzar's rule in Babylon. More than that, they were appointed to high positions of authority, wealth, riches, and honor. And even in that, Nebuchadnezzar gave them these names because they were assimilating into Babylonian culture. Although they were of God, they lived in this world, but they were not of it. And here's the point I'm making. We see here Daniel's name, meaning God is my judge, became Bethlejar, meaning protected by Bel. So you have the manipulation, God is my judge, protected by demonic insert Baal, Baal, Satan, you're the deceiver. We don't care what we want to call you. Anyways, Hananiah, who became Shadrach. His name is Yahweh is gracious. Shadrach meaning uncertain. Mishael, who is what God is, meaning who is greater, sovereign, all of that. Became who is what Aku is. Azariah, helped by Yahweh, became Abednego, servant of Nego. Now, again, here's the point I'm making. Know who you are in Christ. Know what the culture is going to throw at you. But that doesn't mean that you have to succumb to that. You can be in this world, but not of it.
Yeah.
And
And
more than,
because
yeah,
they're in this world and not of it, they refuse to serve the golden statues.
exactly.
I like
Thank you
it.
for landing that plane because I was about to go in like 3 different circles. I feel like you could tell.
You're good. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or worship the gods or the gold statue I've set up? I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship to the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power." So as you see here, not only did they refuse once, but they were given a second opportunity. Just like this culture will give you multiple opportunities, you have multiple chances to say no. Now you got to be able to stand firm and say no multiple times.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the first time is going to be the easiest time.
Yeah.
Now when you start getting pushed and pressured, peer pressure is a big thing, and sometimes a lot of people fall. But you got to be able to stand firm in your faith. Now, how do we do that? So there's 3 things that we can learn here on how to stand firm in your faith. 1, how are you intentionally spending time with God?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. It's the relationship between you and God is a 2-way street.
Yeah.
You can't just be having a relationship with think about it as like your father or like your best friend. You can't just be talking to him once a week or once a month or only going to him when you need the help. And no, it's a 2-way relationship.
Yeah.
And in order to have that 2-way relationship, you got to have that constant communication. And part of that constant communication is only staying in your word, but also praying to him constantly. So another part is in order to stand firm is you got to pray constantly to him.
Yeah.
And prayer is not a chore, it's a gift.
Another thing with like Ty was saying, you get these opportunities to deny, meaning not God but the world, is each time that you do that, you're edifying. Like you're building up the courage, but you're also building up your faith. Because the first time, like you said, it might be easy. Like for instance, me, I don't really struggle with drinking. That's not really my thing. Alcohol is nasty. Most of it, 90% of it, except for like red wine. I don't know. Point I'm making is like somebody comes up to me, hey, you want to go to this party and get absolutely crunk and wasted? Not really. That's easy for me, right? Second time somebody comes up to me, hey, bro, you want to pull up on the Drake concert? I can't listen to secular music, bro. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Third time, hey, Sean, I just found this absolute beautiful woman for you. Matter of fact, she wants you right now. She said, hey, I don't know. I'm trying to paint the picture without saying something bad, but basically, she comes up to me, right, Sean, and this didn't happen. But she comes up to you and says, hey, you know what? I want to offer myself to you right now. What do you do in that situation? You lean on Christ and say, hey, you know what? Thank you for finding me attractive. Unfortunately, though, I'm trying to protect my purity. And not even unfortunately, I'm trying to protect my purity. And more than that, I'm trying to protect yours. Each one of those times, God is going to give you different situations to where it's going to increase in difficulty. And by increasing in difficulty, he's going to increase your faith in not just him, but your ability to stand firm on him.
Yeah, and I like that how you took 3 different examples. So there's 3 different statues that can be thrown that the culture could throw at you.
Yeah.
So another thing is know the words so you can combat it.
Yeah.
Combat your situation. And we're not saying that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in this specific story combated King Nebuchadnezzar with God's word, because we don't know that for a fact or not. It's not what he said. But we do know because they were Jews, they were servants of God, that they definitely knew the word and they were staying in constant communication with God.
Yeah.
And that was also another big thing to help them, as we'll see later in the story, on how they were able to stand firm. And just like that, we should be able to do the same thing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, starting in verse 16. replied to O King Sorry, my bad.
You're good.
Starting in verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, O Majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your Majesty, that we will never serve a God or worship the gold statue you've set up. Now, that's big. That's bold. That's very bold.
Yeah.
It's a very bold statement to say.
I mean, you just had a man declare that anybody who's not going to do this is quite literally cooked.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, hey, twin, respectfully, I'm good.
Respectfully, I'd rather choose the furnace than bow down to your statue.
And that's the thing too. They don't know. Did you read? You read 18, right?
I did.
Okay. Point I'm making is they didn't know. They didn't know. And here's what I want to get at, right? Ty and I did our own kind of like study on this. We came to similar conclusions but different verses. But I was reflecting on the table of contents, right? I was so close. No, I was reflecting on Philippians. We just have to get there. I promise y'all, I'm gonna land this plane in a little bit longer. I can't even grab the pages. This is embarrassing. I actually can't grab the pages. This is so embarrassing. Okay, but no, I was reflecting in Philippians and I was thinking about Paul's life, and I want to read this verse for you, and then I'm going to connect it. Starting in verse 19 of chapter 1. And I trust excuse me. I swallowed and choked on my own spit. Starting at this verse, and I trust that my life will bring honor to Christ, whether I live or die. For me, living means living for Christ, and dying is even better. But if I live, I can do more fruitful work for Christ. So I don't really know which is better. Let's relate that back to the story at hand. Here's what we see here. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are offered with life or death. And for them, they're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go in this furnace, and maybe God's going to save me. And that's going to be a testament to his glory and power and what he can do for you and for me. Or they're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go in this furnace, and I'm going to die. And I'm going to defy you and let my death be a martyr, right? Every day that you walk this earth as a Christian, your life should be a testimony, and your death should be a martyr that points to the Maker.
Yeah. So it's like, even in those times, they didn't know that God was going to save them or not. That's why they said, even if he doesn't save us, we're still not going to bow down.
Exactly.
We never will. And it's those times of uncertainty where your faith is proven. And what we want to get here is that your faith in times of those uncertainty moments, and it might mean that you might have to be separated from that crowd.
Yeah.
Just as Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego were separated from the crowd of Babylon, and put up on this stage and saying, all right, are you going to do this or not? They were forced with peer pressure, and they stood firm. So sometimes you might get that text, like you were saying earlier, saying, hey, let's go to this function. And you might say no. And then what's going to happen is sometimes your friends might either, one, bash you for it, or two, they might just stop talking to you.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with that.
What do you do?
Exactly. What do you do in those times where they start just either bashing you and saying, oh, come on, one drink is going to hurt you, or blah, 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 this. Or if they just completely ghost you, you got to be okay with saying, you know what, I serve a Lord who's greater than this alcohol, who's greater than whatever this statue is throwing at me.
Yeah, that's good.
So continue on with the story. We're going to see what actually happens. Starting in verse 19, Nebuchadnezzar was so furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that his face became distorted with rage. He commanded the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. He ordered some of the strongest men in the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. Hold on a minute. So the furnace was already meant to kill people.
Yeah.
And now because he's so distraught with rage, he decided, all right, bro, here's what we're going to do. You denied me twice. Let's just crank the furnace up 7 times hotter.
Let's make an example.
Exactly. And you got to be okay with sometimes when you deny something more than just once, you got to be okay with the blowback even being harder than you denying it.
Mm.
Continuing on in verse 22 or 21. So they tied him up, threw him into the furnace, fully dressed in their pants, turbans, robes, and other garments. And because the king, in his anger, demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames killed the soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell into the roaring flames. The men who threw the 3 Jews in the furnace died immediately. So just to give you a little example of that, it's just like, if you can think about the hottest thing that you touch.
Gas chamber.
What?
Oh, sorry. I meant I meant like when I went into the gas chamber with CS gas, not World War II. Sorry. Let me provide that context. I've been to a gas chamber.
Anyways, the people, the men of the army were not even supposed to be in the fire. But because they were so close to this fire and it was cranked 7 times hotter, they died immediately.
Yeah.
Just to give you a little like reference of how hot this thing was. It's like throwing yourself into a boiling volcano, but because you were so close to the volcano, you just die immediately too. But suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, "Didn't we tie up the men and throw them into the furnace?" "Yes, Your Majesty, we certainly did," they replied. Stupid wind. "Look," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, "I see 4 men unbound walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a god." Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors crowded around them to see that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair in their head was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell like smoke. Now, there's 4 people walking along in this fire. They said Nebuchadnezzar thought it was someone of the Most High. We don't know exactly who was in that fire with them. Some people say it's an angel. Some people say it was God himself.
I will say
And
this.
then other people say that it was just a pre-incarnation of Jesus.
Yeah, I was gonna say even in the looking at the original Aramaic, it says like a son of the God. So yes, there isn't a definite answer, but it is alluded to Jesus in that moment.
Yeah. So and quite frankly, it doesn't really matter who was in there. It's just that person, and that God protected those people because they were faithful to Him.
Yep.
In that prior moments before, God was faithful and said, "You know what? I'm going to protect these 3 people. And matter of fact, I'm going to send someone else to protect them." So one thing that we can say is when we become faithful to God in those moments of uncertainty and that faith is shown, God rewards us.
Yeah.
Now we're not going to say that, oh, because we're going to get thrown into fiery furnaces, He's just going to save us immediately. But because quite frankly, I don't know who is getting thrown in furnaces, but nowadays.
Yeah, me neither. But that's not the point. The point is in this life, in this walk, in this series of faith, I'm not even talking about the video, I'm talking about your personal life. Sometimes you're going to have moments where you're going to have with absolute 100% certainty know that God is going to take care of you in this moment. And sometimes sometimes it's going to look like, hey, you know what? I know God loves me. I don't know the outcome, but I know that He would take care of me. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I was talking to one of my friends, and he was like, part of the struggle that I've been walked with is like, he's very close with God to the point where he's like, hey, I'll have a headache and excuse me, I'll take it for granted because I know like I'll have a headache or I'll get sick. I'll pray about it. Instantaneously, I'm healed. But there are these areas in my life, whether it's relationship with my mother, relationship with growing in church, relationship with friends, I get upset with God because I feel like He hasn't answered me because He's not being faithful. But the reality of the situation is God is always working for you. And more than that, your faith has to be able to stand the moments like this where, hey, they go into the fire, they don't know, but ultimately they were saved. But it also has to point to the other extreme of, hey, I don't know, but I trust in you. I don't know when you're going to fix this relationship, but I do know that if I put my hope and trust in you and let you work in my life, that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually really good. And it's the point of trusting God when you don't know the outcome of everything, and that's what faith is ultimately is. It's that putting your hope and trust in putting your hope and trust in God, knowing that you don't know the outcome, but knowing that He's going to work everything out for His good.
Yeah.
And sometimes,
and His good is good for you.
Exactly. And sometimes that good might be pain in the struggle, might be pain in the time. But you might come out of that season and you just be like, I learned this. Or now I can see why I had to go through this.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is that you're dealing with or whatever you were dealing with. You can look back and see how God was faithful to you. And then that builds your faith, knowing that you can be faithful to Him.
More than that, I'd say you can also look back. I know even in our lives, we can look back to God and see how He was faithful to us, even when we were in rebellion to Him.
Yeah.
Ty, what does it say in Proverbs?
Oh, you put my Bible down, but it's okay. Proverbs 2, starting in verse 8.
Eventually.
Hold on. I'm in Psalms 145.
Expeditiously.
Right here.
Okay.
He guards the path of those who are just and protects those who are faithful to Him. So, just as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were faithful to God, He rewarded them and protected them because they were faithful, so God is faithful to those. So if you are faithful to God, He will protect you. Not saying that He will not allow you to burn up, but sometimes He will. But that is also a different conversation. If you want to learn more about purification process, go to our faithfulness video. Shameless plug.
No, that was good. I was like, wait, where are you going? I'm like, he's doing the YouTube thing. He's in that creator mindset. I like that.
No, but
no, but for you to watch it though.
It's a two-way street. You got to be faithful, just as He will be faithful to you. It's a reward that you get because you're faithful to Him.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Anyways, there's gonna be 3 videos this week because we did not upload the other faith video. Ty, why didn't we upload the faith video?
What do you mean?
This
is the first week.
Yeah, but why are they getting 3 videos this week instead of? Why didn't they get why are they watching 3 videos this week instead of going a week without a video? What
because
happened?
Guys, we love you so much. We wanted to triple upload this week.
No. That's not what happened.
Genuinely, I filmed the video originally, and I didn't like how I was sounding, and I didn't like the fact that I couldn't bounce my ideas off of Sean. So we decided to film it together, and we will probably be filming the rest of it together.
Something like that. Anyways, keep engaging with us. Send us your prayers. Send us your conversations. What? Sorry. Send us your prayers. Engage in conversations. Genuinely, I know a lot of y'all communicate with us through TikTok, not even in DMs, just in the comment section. I was talking to one guy yesterday. Actually reached out to me from TikTok. We had a whole conversation in the DMs. But seriously, we read those, we engage with those, and we love pouring back and having that conversation and connection with you. Next video will be on faith. What is it going to be about? That's a great question. I was going to answer it. The waiting season? The waiting season. Kind of like I alluded to earlier, how you not knowing what's going on. We're going to talk about that. There's going to be a video about it. There's also another video dropping
this Sunday, actually.
This Sunday.
Or
it's about.
I don't know when this video is dropping.
This video will drop. Y'all might be watching 2 videos on Wednesday. I don't know yet.
2 videos on Wednesday? Why can't we double drop Sunday?
We haven't even filmed the next. You're going to get videos. You're going to watch the videos. You're going to listen to the videos. You're going to read your Bible. You're going to pray. No, but seriously, we hope that as we learn, engage, grow, and ultimately spread that to y'all, that from our faith and what God is doing in our lives, that you come to not only have that salvation faith, but then grow that steadfast and that sustaining. We're so close to like 500 subscribers. We're like 176. So like in the grand scheme, I think that's pretty close. So keep engaging with our content.
We're 176 off, or we're at 100?
No, we're at 170, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Either way,
we're 176 off. I was like, dang, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, but we're close. We're close. So keep engaging, keep loving, keep talking, and ultimately keep praying and keep staying in the Word.
Keep spreading the love of Jesus.
Yes, we love y'all.
What we want to say.
Exactly. We love y'all. We thank y'all. We'll see you whenever we decide to film and edit.
We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.